You're listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. And discussion. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and J-Raff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 181 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, alongside of me, co-host J-Raff.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We had a little hiatus there, summer hiatus, but we were back in and ready to go. Kind of, hit our stride here a little bit. I know we have a couple hiccups yet, but hit our stride, kind of going into football season. I sent you a text of a tweet that was not mine yesterday. I think it was NFL Network that said, "It's August 1st. Hooray for the last month or you won't have another month without football until March." Yeah,
how crazy is that? But it's the best time of the year.
And for a lot of football fans, not necessarily just NFL fans, because obviously that doesn't start till September, but for a lot of fans, some form of football, whether it's preseason games or school football at different levels or things like that, kick up within a month. So we're getting ready to go.
Yes, we are, and I'm so excited that it is here. August is, I don't want to say it's the best month, but like once August is here, training camps everywhere. I think the Eagles started today, was it? Like officially with practice today. The Dolphins are already on day 4. They started really early this year. It's the best time of the year, so I'm so excited to be here and get ready that 3 weeks from today, it'll be the eve before I start the first week of practice with my little middle school kids, so that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. It's just about a month, a little more than a month away from the first Wilson football game, which is Friday, September 4th. The Bulldogs are traveling to Mifflin in that rivalry game. That'll be a lot of fun. Always look forward to Friday Night Lights in West Lawn. And NFL, NFL starts, I think the first game is, I believe it's like Thursday, September 10th or 11th. I think it's the 10th. Because I think the first Sunday football is the 13th.
I think the 7th is a Monday, correct?
Yes, you're right.
So 8th, 9th, 10th, yeah.
Yep.
So Thursday night game, the 10th.
Thursday, September 10th will be the kickoff between the Patriots hosting the Steelers. I think there's some news about the Patriots game. Before we dive into the football, I just wanted to mention this is the first show that we're not doing on Blog Talk Radio. A little bit different, changed some things up while Justin was away. Went to Mixler, which is a nice little program. I've been following some other podcasts that I listen to, and it allows us to do some things that we were limited to before with Blog Talk Radio. So we're trying that out. I'm going to keep the chat up there from going on. I know it takes some time for people to migrate over there if they prefer listening to the audio live versus the Ustream feed. So we're using Mixler tonight, and hopefully, people want to join in and chat. I do that with a lot of the other podcasts I watch live. It's a ton of fun. So hopefully we can develop some kind of rapport with some of the Mixler users instead of the Blog Talk Radio community. Nothing really against them. Just this was something I wanted to try and give it a go, and hopefully it works out in the long run. But nothing's really changing in terms of this show. We're looking into some other things to possibly add. which led to the creation of kind of an umbrella to host some of these things under. For the time being, it looks like it'll be me and Justin obviously doing this show. We may be doing another show, which would probably overlap with this show, kind of replace this show just for a couple weeks during football season. And hopefully I'll have some information on that for you maybe next week or definitely by the end of August. And but anyway, so the Joe Mays and J-Raff show is actually now under the umbrella of what I'm going to call, and this actually comes from you, Jeminger Radio. So just using our initials in the end, instead of saying JMNJR, I just went, you were calling it Jeminger.com? Well, that's going to be the umbrella that all of our shows fall under. So now there's an official JemingerRadio.com, which you can actually go there right now. If you're listening on Ustream and just want to check out the audio, if you go to JMNJRradio.com, there's a basic page there which has a schedule of the shows and actually has the Mixler podcast embedded there, that as soon as you open it up on your computer, it'll start playing the live show. So like I said, a lot of interesting things happening here with us, and we look forward to bringing you the same old great stuff on the Joe Mays and J-Raff show, and maybe in the future on another show as well. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, so we're kind of looking at all this stuff kind of as we move on. So hopefully those things work out, and we'll have more news for that in the coming weeks.
Now, the way you contact us hasn't changed at all. There's still multiple ways you can do that, and we love to be interactive. And, why don't you give the fine folks out there listening how they can join us?
Yeah, we'd love to have your take on any of the real teams or the conference. I think we're talking NFC South
Correct,
tonight.
Yep.
So NFC South, if you have any takes or any questions or any other football comments, we'll take those too. You can use the Mays Sandwich Shop hotline to call, and that number is 530-563-6297. Again, 530-563-6297. You can also use the Mays Sandwich Shop email inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. Again, joemaysandjraff@gmail.com.
We also have the social media, and we got it out there for the show, for the radio group now, the Jimger Radio Productions. There's multiple ways that you can interact with us on Twitter, Facebook. We're all over the place there. Again, we have the Mixler page. We put up audio on SoundCloud as well, and we're pushing the podcast to iTunes like we've been. Now you'll hopefully be getting a little bit better audio in the podcast as Mixler and SoundCloud, the way that they record is a little bit higher quality than what we were getting through Blog Talk Radio. So, if you have... if you're listening on an iPhone or an iPad or something, you download the podcast on there. We'd really appreciate it. If you like the show on iTunes as well, we'd love for you to rate the show because that helps us spread awareness of getting our name out there. And because Justin and I love to do this every Sunday night, and we hope you enjoy what we have to say. What we're going to say tonight is still football. It's been football for how long now? I can't even really remember the last year that it wasn't football. Yeah. It might have been Mother's Day when we went over the greatest female athletes.
It may have been. I think we did one after that wasn't football, but I'm not 100% sure because I think we actually might have done draft recap after that. And then it might have ended up being, and then Deflategate took a couple weeks. And
That's right, it did.
So yeah, it really, who knows? But we've mentioned this a number of times. The Phillies have kind of led us to need to do that this year. Now, if they would have played, and if they would have played like they have the last, since the All-Star break, we probably would be talking about them at least a little bit more. Just real quick, the Phillies thing.
Yeah, run that down.
I did see an interesting thing the other day that just said, if Sandberg hadn't been with the Phillies all year, would they be still under 500, but would they be within a few games of 500? And I think that might be a bit of a stretch, but needless to say, they are playing much better, and they lost today, but they still took 3 out of 4 from the Braves. I think they're 12-3 since the All-Star break. They did trade Cole Hamels, so that's a big thing. They got trade Cole Hamels and Jake Diekman. They got 6 players in return, 1 major leaguer and 5 prospects. And people are pretty much set that this is the deal that is either going to kind of probably get Ruben Amaro Jr. a big extension,
right,
or it's going to cause him to be fired. So one of those two. Now
it'll take some time to figure it out. It's going to take some time.
I think by the end of next year they're going to have a decision on that because while they may not have made it to the major leagues yet, they'll have an idea of whether those prospects are developing the way they want them to or whether they are not, and that's going to go a long way in determining Ruben Amaro's future with the Phillies.
Right, so Hamels and Diekman to Texas, Papelbon to Washington.
Yeah, good riddance.
And like you said, I think they were at one point they went on a 9-1 run. They 12-3 or so since the All-Star break. They've been playing really good ball. We'll see what happens. But we still expect them to be 2 years away. Like, I don't think they're supposed to be in contention until at least 2017.
Some of my friends who are really in tune with baseball, I mean, like diehard baseball fans, not just Phillies fans, but baseball fans, have emphasized the point that the Phillies are on. We've now started the race for the 2017 playoffs. That was their take on it. I've seen that take other places, and I would have to agree. I think 2017, could be. And it would be funny because it would be 10 years after 2007, the one where you get back to the playoffs and then you start building that team to make the next run. And at this point, I'm okay with that because think about it. It's been a year since they've made a legitimate run. So you got to regroup at some point and go. I hate to see Hamels go. But if it's going to be a few years till you make a legitimate run, what good is it to have an ace on a team that's going to win 68 games? It's not good at all. Yeah, doesn't help you at all.
And because of some of the moves, I saw some people, kind of looking at the offseason and what they could do to try to make a run in 2016, that they actually have space and players available to sign. But I feel like you need to see the long-term vision. What's another year? Really, what's another year? It'll have been, if 2017 turns out well, it'll have been 6 years since you were last in the playoffs. But, that 1 year here and there, I know, some people we got to win now, we got to win now.
Right.
Most of the good guys, the potential guys are young.
Right.
1 year in their development is actually going to help for the long term. So 2016, I just want to see them guys play. I want to see the young guys develop. I don't expect much from them. If they jump ahead, that's great. But 2017 is the year.
If next year is kind of like 2006, 2006 was a little disappointing. But those middle of the 2000s where they were.
They
were
up
struggling
from,
to get
02
above
to
500, but they're right around 500.
Yeah. 02 to 06, they went from 81 and 81 and got better each year.
Right.
05, 06, they barely missed the playoffs by just not even a handful of games. It was like a game or 2, 3 here and there for 2 years, and then finally burst through.
That's
07.
how I am kind of viewing next year. Next year's the year where I want to see improvement. Fortunately, even though we'll have a young team, there's a lot of room for improvement for next year. So I think that it was a necessary move. They were able to get a lot in return for Cole. There were no hard feelings. He didn't force his way out. It was like the opposite of Papelbon. Even if Cole did want out, he handled it 1,000 times better, and that would just make sense because he's your ace on the staff versus a closer mentality. I did see a quote from this is an old quote, but from the Yankees GM who said. It would be nice if every once in a while, if a closer remembered that all closers are failed starters, because it would make spending some time out in the bullpen less insufferable. He's
wow.
He's like, just closers have this mentality that they are the next greatest thing. And Papelbon can be good, but I would love nothing more than for him to blow some games against the Phillies this year. And have it cost the Nationals dearly.
Well, yeah.
Even if it's not against the Phillies, I'll take that.
Right.
Just the way he handled himself, I was tired of that.
All right, so you're watching...
Enough Phillies. That's more Phillies talk than we've given them the whole season.
Time, yeah. You're watching episode 181 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff show on Jim and Jer Radio here in Sinking Spring, Pennsylvania. We're supposed to be talking 2015 NFL preview. We're at the halfway point, actually, not only of the show, but also halfway point of this preview series. We started it way back at the end of June with the West divisions in back-to-back weeks. We went with the AFC South when we were on the radio 3 weeks ago. Now we're back here with the NFC South, and we'll be doing the AFC North next week. But NFC South, so we're talking Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay. Those are your 4 teams. It's always been an interesting division since they moved to the way it's comprised now of the NFC South of those 4 teams. Up until the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, the worst team from the year before won the division for like 7 or 8 years in a row. It may have even been longer. So it's a little bit interesting to see that dynamic. Then the Saints went on a little bit of a run. They were pretty good. Now the Panthers actually won back-to-back division titles. What's going to happen to the South in 2015? It's a really interesting division. We just had the Buccaneers, Lovie Smith, name Jameis Winston the starting quarterback. I don't think anyone's surprised there. Is Cam Newton going to be healthy for the Panthers? Do they have anything besides parts of their offense? If Newton goes out, Do they have a team? What's going to happen in Atlanta with the new coach and Coach Quinn? Is he going to be able to revitalize it or revolutionize the defense? What's going to happen there? And then in New Orleans, is Drew Brees and Sean Payton, are their glory days over, or are they going to make a rebound? Do you want to start at the top or the bottom this week?
Let's start at the top.
All right. Number 1. Go ahead.
Man, I was hoping
put you on the
would go
spot.
first.
No, put you on the spot right here.
I'm not 100% settled. I've been going back and forth as I'm sitting here, which is kind of how this division works, I think.
If you want me to go, the only thing that I think I'd be any different than you right now is I'd eliminate Tampa Bay, because even with Winston, I don't think they make the jump from 2-14 or whatever to 10-6 or whatever.
Right.
You're gonna need
Yeah.
to win
I don't
the
think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be improved.
I definitely think they'll be better.
I mean, again, lots of room for improvement.
A lot of room for improvement.
But I think they will be better. I don't think they win the division. So if I have to pick someone, you know what? And this is a change from what I had kind of set myself on today when I was thinking about this, kind of working my way through. I thought I was set on a team, and I'm going away from that team. I'm going to go with the Saints.
Okay.
And I think that's a stupid pick on my part, because in reality, they lost their other best offensive weapon. Drew Brees is their best offensive weapon. Their next best offensive weapon now plays for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So I don't know necessarily outside the division that there's much there that they're going to accomplish. But I feel like Sean Payton and Drew Brees are good enough to turn it around again. And I thought Drew Brees had a terrible year last year. That was at first. When you look at it, he didn't really have a terrible year at all.
No,
he didn't have
wasn't as
the
loud
year that you were
prodigious as usual.
Right. And everybody was kind of expecting it because, they were a couple years removed from the whatever, I forget what it was called, but Bounty Gate, all that stuff. But I just think they put it together. I think Drew Brees is good enough on offense to kind of get them where they need to go. I think some of the moves they made on defense, it's interesting that they got rid of Gillette on, as a linebacker, but who knows what's happening there. There's all kind of weird dynamics. All kinds of possible off-the-field issues that could rear their ugly head. I mean, when the Redskins give you a one-year deal because of, you might be, questions, might be some questions there. When Daniel Snyder's only signing you for a year and it's like the veteran minimum, you could be on shaky ground. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I think the defense will be a little bit better. I don't know, though. I just think that Drew Brees is too good to finish third in this division, which is honestly where I had him probably 10 minutes ago when I thought I had my order set coming into the show.
That's interesting. Then I'd like to see if you were. Let's see.
So I'm going with the Saints number 1.
You got the Saints at 1. We know we
got 10-6.
Do you have Tampa Bay at 4, or did you bump them up?
No, I have them at 4.
But just much better.
Yeah,
so
probably like 5
to
or 6 wins.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So we both agree. Tampa Bay still at the bottom, but a lot better and more than doubling their win, because I think they were 2-14.
I think they were. Yeah.
I think they get at least 5, if not 6 wins, because I like Lovie Smith.
And the defense was solid last year. They were close in some games last year.
Now with Lovie Smith in charge down there, I think the defense will be even better. They have a lot of nice young players there that he can build a defense around, and
regardless
a new
of what
quarterback,
you think of
new
Jameis,
system. Regardless
of what you think of him, he's a heck. He has the potential to be a heck of a quarterback.
Oh, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
they have some weapons.
Right, exactly.
They could be
Doug
exciting.
Martin could have a renaissance this year, and he needs it after. I mean, he had a great rookie season, but where's he been since?
Two-legged hamster.
So we agree. Tampa Bay in 4th, last place, but much better. 5-6 wins. If things go their way, they could push 500, I think.
That leaves us in the middle.
First place, you went with New Orleans, apparently a last-second change. I think after, winning the division back-to-back years, I want to say you were thinking, okay, Carolina with a three-peat. That's actually what our listener Bill texted in. He's got the organized NFC South standings for him. His prediction is Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta, Tampa Bay. I only agree with him on one of those, and it was the last place. So, you say no, you're shaking your head not to Carolina for a three-peat. That's interesting because my number 1 team is Atlanta.
That's who I had. That's who I had going 1. I'm glad I went away because I'm glad we finally have a disagreement on our number 1 team. I know we've had a lot of the same teams as we've gone through. We might have actually had all the same teams so far.
I think we switched the middle ones, but I think the winners, winners.
I think that's what I meant. I think we have the winners the same so far on the 3 for 3. This is our 4th one. So I'm glad we've gone different here. And again, I kind of like that pick of Atlanta. Again, we know I'm not a huge Matt Ryan fan. I think they're okay, but when we look at some of the things like kind of coming into it, I don't know. Their defense has to be better. Their defense was awful, but I don't know that they really got good enough on the offensive line to really help Matt Ryan out. Like Julio Jones is great when he's healthy. They're interesting though because I think they might have the biggest upside of the teams this year on there, which is kind of crazy because you just mentioned Carolina won the division 2 years in a row. But, like, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Atlanta won, like, 12 games. You know what I mean? Whereas I think the Saints are going to win it closer to 10 games. But, like, if I had to pick a team to win 12, I might pick Atlanta just because if their offense gets clicking and their defense is respectable, they could be the most dynamic team in the conference. I didn't mean conference. I meant the division. Sorry. I don't think they're that good. But, like, they could really get it going. If they get those weapons on offense and, a new defensive-minded head coach can bring in some respectability there on defense, it could be pretty good. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Why did you put Atlanta 1?
Well, let me just address the comment in the Mixler chat from Andy. He asks, does Tampa Bay have the run game to support Winston? And we kind of mentioned Doug Martin there. Is he going to be able to return to the way he was as a rookie? I think in 2012, I think was his rookie season. He was great as a rookie that year, but 2013, 2014, he could not get going.
Right.
I know he ruined people's fantasy seasons because he was a high pick. He's been hurt a ton. Now, Bobby Rainey kind of broke through there near the end, and he's been getting some of the carries. I think the two of them as a duo, if they're able to handle the load and play at their best level, Martin is a rookie, and Rainey, he was running wild a little bit when he had some opportunities. Them together as a duo, I think they're good enough. If Winston is also playing not like a rookie, he's got to be playing up to his potential. I still don't think if Martin Rainey have a great year and Winston looks good, they're anything above a 500 team. Right. I don't think they're quite there yet.
I think they have the pieces though, where if those guys can produce again, okay. It's kind of the opposite of the Falcons, where I said the Falcons have the potential to be dynamic on offense and if they have a respectable defense, they could be really good. Now, there's question marks there for me on offense, like offensive line. They need to keep Matt Ryan upright, and some of the running game, and they've had some other areas where they have some question marks, major question marks. But I feel like Tampa's just the opposite. I think Tampa's defense has the potential to carry that team. I think they did a little bit last year. However, the big question mark there obviously is offense, and it is for all teams that are like 2-14. You don't see 2-14 teams that are struggling on offense.
No, you win more than 2 games.
Sorry, not struggling.
Right,
on offense.
Yeah. If you're winning only 2 games, you have a terrible offense. If Winston is able to keep defenses honest, like almost like the opposite of what it's the running game allowing the offense to explode through the passing game. But if Winston,
especially early in the season, when teams are going to make him prove himself, they're going to stack the box. He's going to be seeing man-to-man coverage or like crazy zones, like to really mess with him. But I bet early on they're going to make him beat you. Don't let one of these guys, Martin or Rainey, who especially early in the season, before the wear and tear of the season catches up with them, make them, take them out of the game, make the rookie beat you. I think that's what we're going to see. So you have the potential maybe for some big numbers if Winston can take advantage.
So I had Atlanta at 1. Why do I have him there? I'm a big believer in Dan Quinn. I think he'll come in and be able to fix what's been the Falcons' problems for a long time. Just be an incredible coordinator for the Seahawks. The last few years, he took over for Gus Bradley, who was actually pretty good before him. But Dan Quinn took it to another level with the Seahawks, and we'll see what Bradley does with the Jaguars this year. But
it's interesting. Took it to a higher level with the Seahawks, and ended up with, I think most would agree, the better head coaching job afterwards.
Won the Super Bowl, went to 2 of them. So Dan Quinn is in Atlanta, takes over from Mike Smith. Their problem has been defense. They haven't been having issues on offense, and he's a defensive guy, so he can kind of come into an offense that has a lot of talent there. I mean, obviously, Matt Ryan, who has had his ups and downs, but he's easily one of the better quarterbacks. I'd even say in the NFC, I think he's a pretty decent guy. At times, we think he's overrated, but Matt Ryan's he's the guy right there.
Again, and that's to be specific. Overrated doesn't mean bad; just means we feel like he gets a little more credit than he is deserved at sometimes. I would agree with you, and like I said, most of the day I was sitting here thinking I think Atlanta's really poised to make a run at this. And it wouldn't surprise me if they do, but I just couldn't bring myself to go away from the Saints. I know they've been removed a few years from that. They blew it a couple years ago, late in the season, and the Panthers just kind of took it from them, literally. And then last year they just didn't have it together. Never really got it going. Everybody kind of kept waiting for them to get on a roll. They lost some games in the Dome last year. Things were falling apart from them. I think they regrouped. And I think Brees makes another run here, which then leads you to there are questions about his contract all the time. It could be big questions if they don't rebound this year. Actually, if they don't rebound this year, it might not be as big a question as if they do rebound this year, because then do you cut him to get some relief there? If
they're going to be in full rebuild, man.
Right. If they're bad, that we're going to cut and kind of start from scratch. If they're good, then that makes it a little tougher, because now you're like, well, we can't really cut. We got to keep paying.
I feel like we've been giving the Saints the benefit of the doubt for a few years now.
Yeah, that was the problem I did during the year last year. I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt, and they just kept
but now you come back and pick them first anyways.
Yeah, I didn't learn anything.
You didn't learn anything at all. I just think...
Yeah, I can tell you exactly why I picked the Saints.
I actually had the Saints in third.
And that I did too. Like 15 minutes ago now, I had them in third, a game or two better than the Bucs. Yeah. Honestly, I had them at Saints, 7 wins and the Bucs at 5. And
Bucs 5-6, Saints 7-9.
Why did
I have Panthers, Bucs or Saints 8-9. No, I'll say 7-8. Actually, I'll say 5-6, 7-8. Yeah. Panthers, I have 9-10.
Yeah,
Falcons, I have about 10. I don't see them getting to 11 because I don't think they're that good. And
this is exactly.
And Bill actually texted another. He said, "Has the division gotten better than it was a year ago?" The Bucs definitely more competitive. The Saints, I think, have gotten worse. The Panthers, I feel about the same. Atlanta, I think, has gotten better. So I think more competitive, but in the grand scheme of the NFL, I don't think there's a Super Bowl champion on
better than last year. Absolutely. Because the division was pretty terrible last year.
Right. Well, when you have the team picking first in the draft, you're going to have a pretty
the Saints were bad
awful...
last year, and the Falcons were bad last year. You were left with Carolina by default. So I think better than last year. I think the division is better than last year, but not markedly better. I think they're slightly better.
It'll be more competitive, but like I said, when you look across the entire NFL and all 32 teams, I'd have these 4 in the bottom 15, possibly all 4 of them.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I would agree. Remember, the Panthers went on a run late in the season last year to finish above 500, like in the regular season.
And I think they're undoing why I have them in second.
And they played a team without a quarterback in the playoffs. That's why they won a game. They literally played a team without a quarterback.
I have them down, 9, maybe 10 wins if things work out. I don't buy into their defense. I know it's crazy to bet for or against injuries, but I don't know if Newton makes it through the whole year.
He hasn't made
that
it through
would
a year
be crippling
yet.
for them, I think.
Yeah.
They made some interesting additions. They now have probably the biggest wide receiving core in the NFL, adding Devin Funchess to Kelvin Benjamin.
Right.
But I don't know if
I think
it's enough.
Funchess is. I like Benjamin. I think Kelvin Benjamin could be huge. And there's obviously any wide receiver. There's a close tie there to Cam Newton. Cam Newton stays healthy. Benjamin may have a huge year. Now, he's not a rookie. He's going to see a lot of double teams and things like that. That's where Funchess needs to be able to relieve some of that pressure off of him, at least draw some coverage. But I have the Panthers in second place and the Falcons in third. So I kind of flipped them just because if I'm going with the Saints, I'm going all in on the Saints. And I think the Falcons will be better than last year, but not. I think it's going to take a little bit more. Let the new coach get his guys in there. I think next year they're going to see a bigger jump than this year. I think the Panthers, I say fall off a little bit.
You're trying to talk yourself out of them, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Because you wanted this pick Atlanta
right,
like I did.
Right.
But you went
so
with
I'm
New
going.
Orleans.
I'm going with the Saints. Then I'm going with the Panthers. I think the Panthers will be like 9 wins.
9 to 10 wins.
And I put the Falcons at 8 or 9 wins too. But I think, oh man, I don't know why I picked the Saints, but I'm going with it.
Change.
I do know. I said I do know, and it's simple because Drew Brees has been so good for me in fantasy football that I've grown to really like the Saints in that sense, and I'm rooting for them here. So I admit that I don't really know why, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah,
Can't help myself.
All right,
gosh.
so my final argument for the Falcons and why I picked them, like I said, on offense, Matt Ryan, arguably a top 10 quarterback, good enough to get you into the playoffs. We haven't seen him be able to take him to the ultimate, challenge of getting to the Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl, but he's obviously good enough to get him to a conference championship game, being one of the better teams in the NFC. You're surrounding him with, for years now, Roddy White and Julio Jones, which is a great 1-2 punch. Now, Roddy White's getting a little older, but they have Devin Hester mixed thing up. They added Justin Hardy as a rookie, and they brought in Leonard Hankerson. So they've got a decent, 4 or 5 deep at wide receiver. I think the offensive line will be better this year. It'll be the second year for Jake Matthews. I also think what they have at running back now is interesting. With Anton Smith, who's that big hitter. He last year, I swear, every game it seemed like he had an 80-yard touchdown. And when I finally picked him in fantasy, he did nothing. But they added Tevin Coleman in the draft, and they are expecting big things from Devontae Freeman, a second-year guy out of Florida State. No big names at running back, but someone that could break out. I think Freeman, Coleman, Smith as a trio is incredibly underrated when you look in the depth charts around the NFL.
This is one of the things I've had against the Falcons for a few years, and I know they've moved on, and not just right now, but people seem to love Steven Jackson. I know, if you look at his numbers as a career, he's had some good numbers, but I've never been a big Steven Jackson fan. He had his first year was great, and then after that, it seemed like he was hurt every year. Now, he was on some terrible Rams teams. I get that, but when he went to the Falcons, everybody's like, Steven Jackson on the Falcons. This is, to me, that should have been a great opportunity because they had Matt Ryan with all these wide receivers, and he couldn't run to save his life on a regular basis. I think they're better off at running back now, having multiple guys who are capable, maybe not the breakout star right now, but 3 guys who are capable at running back instead of having the guy who is supposedly a star who I was never really a fan of.
I think, in addition to what I just mentioned on offense, line being better, great depth at wide receiver, underrated running backs, solid quarterback. On defense, Dan Quinn's going to completely change that scheme, which is usually a couple wins, bumps and wins.
Right, we talked about that before.
You bring in a new coach.
You see a bump of about up to 10
3. I'd say
of the rankings.
Right, yeah.
So,
and I'd see 2 to 3 wins there, gets them in the picture. I think they'll be even better. And I look at some of the defensive linemen that they had to use in the 4-3 under or 3-4, whatever base that Dan Quinn ends up using with the personnel, they can use it both ways. When you have Adrian Claiborne, Rashid Hageman, Tyson Jackson, Jonathan Babineau, Grady Jarrett, and Paul Soliai, you have a great mixture of big bodies, quick bodies that you can put an even front out there, put an odd front out there. You'll get a pass rush, which is something they've sorely lacked for a long time. And probably the biggest name that should contribute either as an end or a rush linebacker was their first pick in the draft. And now I'm completely forgetting his name. Where is he? Vic Beasley. I knew I was trying to go somewhere with that. Vic Beasley. When you can add him at rush linebacker or end, in addition to Brooks Reed and O'Brien Schofield, who just kind of can just bring it. I think they have the pieces if the secondary comes together, which I'm expecting big things from Desmond Trufant now. I think in his 3rd year in the league, I think he's going to develop into one of the best, possibly the best corner in the NFC South, and one of the better in the conference. I think he could have a Pro Bowl year in Quinn's defensive scheme. So I'm expecting a lot from Atlanta. I'll peg them at 10 wins. 11 would be pushing it, but I definitely think they're the best team in the NFC South.
And that wouldn't surprise me at all, but I was swayed by my fantasy football team.
You were just panicking at the last second that you couldn't.
Exactly.
You didn't want to back down.
I just wanted to make a good show and finally have a different pick.
Right.
So
I who was going to have the last laugh? That's that'll be interesting because when it comes back to it, this is the first time we disagree. The Bucs are going to win.
I was going to say the Panthers
because 2 years ago when we did this, we both said there was no way the Eagles were going to win the division, and they won the division. We agreed there were 3 teams that could win the NFC East. None of them were the Eagles, and the Eagles won.
That was my favorite wrong pick ever.
Well, yeah, of course it works out for you. Okay, so that's episode 181 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff show. We broke down the NFC South. Next week we're going to the AFC, going to the AFC North, which I know a lot of our listeners are very interested in what we have to say about the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns. So that will be next Sunday, same time, 6:30 p.m. You can listen to the Joe Mays and J-Raff show on Jimminger Radio. Check us out at jimmingerradio.com or go to the show page, jmnjr.com, joemaysandjraff.com. They'll all get you. And we got a ton of stuff on the page, including all the old shows, both the video version, the audio-only version. We got pictures, information, how to contact us. One of the great things that we added a couple weeks ago was the ability for you to leave a voicemail for us through your computer. So if you have a little tiny microphone somewhere that connects to the computer, you can go to joemaysandjraff.com and go to the Contact Us page, and there's this opportunity to leave a voicemail for us that we can play on the show. And if you don't feel like calling in live, that's a great way to get your voice heard on the show. So we'd love for you guys to take the opportunity to contact us in any way, be it SpeakPipe to do the voicemail, Twitter, Facebook, text, email, or call us. We love hearing what our listeners have to say, and I think that's pretty much it. Do you have anything else to add for this show this week, Justin?
No, not really. I mean, we've talked about a lot of those Western divisions and the Southern divisions, and now we're getting into the North. I know, like you said, next week we talk about the Steelers, and again, that's another interesting division with a lot on the line for some teams. So I'll be interested to see kind of where we go there. We kind of predicted that we might be different in the NFC South. I think we may be different in the AFC North, but I don't really know because I don't know where I'm at yet.
I don't know where I'm at either, but going through what we have left in our heads, both the North and both the East, I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 were different on. I think it's that type of year in those 4 divisions. You know what? I think the NFC North will be the same on first place, which is what we're talking about here. First place is most important.
You're
I think NFC North will be the same.
I think we learned our lesson on the NFC North.
The AFC North, the NFC East, and AFC East, I think we could all be different because I'm going out on a limb on a couple of these.
All right, so I'm excited about it then. We'll see.
All right, well then I think that's everything. Thanks for joining us. That wraps up the 181st episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday evening at 6:30 for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff show. Don't forget, you can download each episode of the show from the podcast section of the iTunes store. We'll see you next time, and thanks again for listening.